Today we're going to talk about partnerships. This is something that every funder that I ever talk to, they always want to talk about partnerships. And every ministry that I talk to is terrified of partnerships. And so today I've got Bryant Underwood from Pulse. You're their senior event director with them. And so you guys do a bunch of events. Yeah. And I would imagine you have a ton of partnerships that you're working with in order to pull it off. Yeah. So maybe you can help debunk some of the myths of partnering and the terribleness that happens with that and partnering and the good. I mean, there's probably both sides, of course.
There is, of course, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Pulse. Like, what do you guys do? Who are you?
Absolutely. So Pulse is an evangelistic organization based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's founded by a gentleman by the name of Nick Hall, founded it 12 years ago on his college campus. And Pulse exists to put on large-scale catalytic evangelistic events. And so we do those in arenas and stadiums and here even recently in a NASCAR track. Yeah. And so we do that. But yeah, partnership is really the only way that we operate and to do things on the scale that we, are currently doing those. And but it can be messy.
Yeah, of course it can. And I think that's where everything gets, everything can be messy, right? Even a relationship between a husband and a wife can get messy, and people are really committed to it. But anytime the word partner of any kind, it does imply I'm expecting them to take over something and not me do any part of it. And that always gets when control is let go of. Yeah. The results sometimes are different than what you expected, and all of that is very organic and moving very fast. Sure. Yeah. So, but you guys do these big events, and so Winter Jam is maybe one of the first ones we could talk about, right?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So we just finished Winter Jam in April of this year, and it was a 55-city tour. That we did a West Coast run, and then we did an East Coast run. So our team was out for almost 4 months, and Nick presented the gospel every night in arenas. And had over 400,000 in attendance with that, and
so it's an event that's a bunch of different musical artists and speaker all coming together in one night. Carrie Job and Skillet and Lecrae and many others, of course, are all on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is some of the different venues. Like I said, basketball arenas, hockey arenas, all across the United States, where we would go with these 10 artists every night. And then we brought the ministry component to this large-scale event, and then began to really utilize a lot of partnership through this as we were traveling across the country and having this opportunity to share the gospel with so many people and seeing tens of thousands respond. And the idea is like, what do we do with them then?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we had this idea, and one of our partners that began to come up over the last couple of years is Crew. And on a national level, Crew just said, hey, as you guys go out and share and people respond to the gospel, we use a text messaging platform that's incredibly helpful. And as people respond, could one of your autoresponders simply be, if you're a college student and want to plug in with like-minded people at your school or in your area, fill out this form. Yeah. And honestly, we thought 50 to 100 people would fill it out, because you're getting, you get something sent back to your phone. You're like, I'm not going to fill this out. But we were shocked. Over 4,000 students filled this out to say, like, I want to see God move on my campus. And so what we did every week is we handed those back to Crew, and then Crew had their localized directors, and then they began to assimilate and follow up with these students. Yeah. And what we saw, the incredible thing that came out of that is there were actually over 50 campuses that they launched that they didn't have a ministry on, because there was a student saying, I want this on my campus. And so out of that, they launched 50 campuses in the last 6 months where they didn't have a ministry yet. So,
that's awesome. Yeah, and that texting, just to do a shameless plug, that texting that was happening at Winter Jam, all that was happening through Echo, right?
Absolutely.
So you guys are a partner with us, and you're so I'll just shamelessly plug that.
I love it.
But all that texting that's happening at all those events, those different calls to action, sometimes it's a keyword, and sometimes it's just text in and start a conversation
Absolutely.
with us. But all those come through Echo and then Pulse and other ministry partners that are working with you guys. Because there's partners on that side too.
There is.
That are helping answer those conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's like a whole bunch of parts to this thing. It's a big
It
huge
is.
thing.
And so that is the case, with I think we had over 30,000 responses on Winter Jam. And so, another partner, Need Him, was having live conversations with these individuals while they're still seating in the seats of the arena at the event about questions with their faith and walking them through that. So just another level of having that partnership. And so it was incredible.
Yeah. So, but really, I think we could claim that because of Echo, 50 new.
Yeah, absolutely. Take it.
Clearly, we
put
would
that
say,
on something.
No,
yeah.
just kidding. But but it can also be messy, right?
Sure.
I mean, there's parts of this that can be not as fun too, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
talk a little bit about some of the challenges. Maybe not names, but like, what are some of the challenges that you've had?
Absolutely. When I think of partnership, I think it can be messy, but because I think what it does is it's saying that I want to give you a place at our table. I want to give you access to the things that we're going to be a part of. And there definitely is a trust that has to be developed there because, I think unfortunately in ministries and organizations, there seems to be a mindset of that it's a competition,
right.
That we're afraid that if I allow this organization or ministry to come in on what we're doing, then they're going to steal the thunder.
Yeah.
And I think the enemy wants to use that and has. And so, I think it is creating a table where everybody has a seat at and where people can express, their ideas and they can be heard.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the Cru thing and these campuses launched. It seemed like, oh, that was really easy, guys. But honestly, that wasn't something that we were even thinking about because that's not our wheelhouse.
Right.
To launch camp. We don't have,
of course,
campuses all over, America, but they did. And so, but we were able to listen to that, to lean into that, to say, okay, well, that's not what we normally do.
Right.
But we're willing to give that a shot.
Sure.
Because you guys have the infrastructure to oversee that. And so I think
it would be silly for you guys to try to build that infrastructure.
Oh, absolutely.
Too.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible. And so they have it, but yet, they didn't have the stage to go and to share and present the gospel to these hundreds of thousands of people, and then or the tool with Echo, that we have had a partnership with for so long, and have learned how to utilize that to the best of our ability, and we're still figuring that out.
Sure.
And so it was just this incredible opportunity where we listened to their needs. Like we want to launch campuses where students don't have an opportunity to have a ministry. But in order to do that, we've got to get in front of people.
Yeah.
And so, it was just this really great. So listening, and creating a space where, ideas can be thrown on the table and nobody takes offense or nobody, it's like, obviously all ideas are good. And so, and then creating some actual steps to move forward. And so for us, it was like, okay, we can, create a back end where people can capture the data. Then we can get the data from Echo, which we did every Monday.
Yeah.
We would get hundreds of names of students who filled out this, and then we would pass it on.
Yeah.
Then they would take it and put it down. Okay, that week we were in Pittsburgh and Columbus, Ohio, and send it to those camps. So it's just this multiple, layer, but it's just a lot of thought, to put through. So, I think it can be messy. And there are those moments where it is, and where it just comes to a point where you're like, you know what? We love what you're doing.
Yeah.
You love what we're doing. But unfortunately, we just can't figure out how to make this work organically.
Yeah, because it's not everything will fit together.
Yeah.
And sometimes the partnership overlaps so much in purpose that's also bad, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's like these two circles that are too far apart that's like, that's cool you're doing that. It has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's such an overlap that it's like, that's going to be confusing to the people in the audience because they're not going to understand which one of us to talk to or whatever. So I think there's some Venn diagram where there is a good amount of overlap that's not too hot, not too cold, but just right. You know,
Yeah.
that probably does make sense.
And I
as well.
think for us, because we're an evangelistic organization who really protects the time of the stage,
Yeah.
when most partnerships, everyone sees that time on the stage as the moment where they have to, be there to present whatever they have. And so, when you're an evangelistic organization and you want the thing to be Jesus, Jesus, you don't want anybody to leave hearing about all these other incredible opportunities that we value all of them, whether they're child sponsorships or schools or whatever else. We value all of them, but for us, the struggle is we never want anyone to leave going, okay, what was that about?
Right.
And so, how do we find partnerships that work? That still, allow each organization to hit, their markers, and that's, I think, the trickiest part.
Yeah, and there's not like there's 4 things that if you just do these, it's always going to work, right? Because it's just each thing is so different on this. But you guys are growing, so like you've been doing Winter Jam, and then you started doing some even bigger events. So talk a little bit about lessons learned, and or explain, I guess, first what was something you did a little earlier this year.
Yeah, so in May we did this event in Minneapolis at US Bank Stadium. We got a picture here.
There it is.
And this is where the Super Bowl was in February. And so this was called Pulse Twin Cities. And so, we're talking about partnership. The idea here was, what would it look like to rally the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul in a season of prayer, worship, unity across the city, and then coming together for a large, catalytic gathering. So this was May 18th of this year. There were 45,000, in attendance at that. But what that was 752 churches partnering together, linking arms, coming together over a 2-year period, praying with one another, pastors swapping pulpits, pastors who, are across the street from each other but never have taken time to have conversations. So, once again, we try to create a place where everyone has a seat at the table.
But how does that happen? I mean, how do you get, I think a lot of people have tried to get a lot of churches, because y'all are working through multiple denominations and a lot of these things. So how are you getting even the pastor that's across the street or across town? How is that happening that they're trading places and praying for each other? Yeah,
that's good. So it started, obviously with the vision of the event, and then they formed a senior pastor leadership team.
Okay.
So our team found 12 influential pastors in the city from various denominations, a diverse group of leaders. And then they began to pray together. They began to meet monthly. They began to say, what is the vision of what God wants to do for our city? And then from there, the challenge was given, now can you reach out to other pastors in your network of your denomination, or other pastors that you are? And then we held pastor summits. So the first pastor summit we had was about a year prior to that, and we actually had it in the stadium where leaders came, and it was just an informational, a vision casting event. We said, hey, we believe this group of pastors has the heart of what God wants to do in this city. We want to invite you to come and be a part. And so that was kind of the invitation process. And then we hosted Unite prayer and worship gatherings. And so these were very strategic, placed all throughout the city. We had 12 of those happen in one night at various churches. And so the idea there was like, if you were a pastor, we wanted you to invite 4 other pastors to come and share the stage with you that night. And 4 or 5 churches put their prayers and worship teams together. And then we had a program of prayer points that everybody was praying throughout the city. And at a given point in the night, they were singing the same songs all throughout 12 locations. Amazing. But so, just pastors beginning to do life with each other and to pray for one another, pray for their hurts and their burden. And then, we had, multiple pastor gatherings. We call them summits, where we say, hey, here's the calendar of events. Here's what we see God doing, and then we did evangelism trainings where we hosted and trained over 11,000 individuals how to share their faith at churches. And so, for us, we always want to work with, through, and for the local church. And because we believe that is the hope, and that's what God has put. And so it's us working through them and equipping them and providing tools and resources for them. But once again, creating that place where no matter what denomination, no matter how big or small your church is, you have a place at the table.
That's so cool, man. And what I also love about that is there's a ton of intentionality. It's not like, well, we scheduled this date, and I hope some people will show up, right? And I think everyone watching this is going to know that too. Sure. But I think, just to hear, I'm imagining someone listening to everything you just said right now, and they were just writing down and like thinking through, and they're like, oh my goodness, there's so many. Because each one of those smaller things, there's 1,000 subtasks that have to happen for that one thing to occur. Yeah. But again, partnerships, right? So again, you're delegating this out and partnering with others to help you do that.
And I would say, even with that, it's like we moved the date by a year. So our plan was it was going to be in 2017.
Okay.
The senior pastor team came to us and said, we have never seen such unity in the city. We don't want the season. So they backed the big event, the May 18th, up a year. Whoa. So I would even say, like, in our own planning, that there was still, listening to the pastors who are shepherding the people in the city to see what is God saying to them. And so, I mean, that's especially when you're talking about locking in artists and venues and to move it, and you're like, well, wait a minute, we were going to do something else in 2018, but okay. And so once again, that's that part of partnership. That's like even being willing to change what you thought was supposed to be based upon the people that are really linking those arms with you.
Yeah. You keep saying flexibility, you keep saying listening, and adapting to what you've heard. Those are recurring things that you're saying. And then I think another thing, though, is you guys got creative.
Yeah, we thought, hey, how could we get people who aren't yet believers to come to an event? And so
this is in the Twin Cities.
This is in the Twin Cities. We partnered with My Pillow, and so they gave out 70,000 pillows on every seat when people came in. And then we broke a Guinness Book of World Records for the world's largest pillow fight.
That's so amazing.
And the Guinness Book of Worlds were actually there, and we worked with them. And so, it was just
so great. But I mean, that's a totally different outside the box thought. So but and those pillows are not cheap either.
No,
and it was a draw, right?
It was incredible.
And it turns out they make an incredible fireworks explosion.
Confetti. It was incredible. Like, these are indestructible.
Well, it made for a cool effect.
It did.
But that's a really creative partnership that I feel like, because you even had the CEO of My Pillow on stage and talking, and he's a believer, and so. I mean, those are some pretty different ways of approaching something. It was good for him, for his business.
Yep.
It's good for him to be able to get that advertisement. We just said the word My Pillow, but it was also good for the people. They got a really nice high-end thing.
I still sleep on mine at home.
Yeah, nice. So it really felt like it was outside of what I wouldn't have ever thought if I was like, oh, we should contact people who make pillows. Like that never would have crossed my mind, but that was actually a really awesome.
And it came very last minute.
Okay.
I would say, it was this idea, but within the last month before the event is when that came about. And when it came about, logistically, it was unbelievable. 15,000 or 15 semis.
I was going to ask, how much does it take to deliver?
15 semis, and took. He actually closed down his warehouse that day and had 150 employees putting out pillow. It took him like 8 hours to put a pillow on every seat in the stadium.
Oh, nice.
It was wild. But it was just this unique idea that is like, okay, yes, we are partnering with churches. We are partnering with organizations to be a part of this event. And then thinking in the business community, how can we not partner just so they give us dollars so we can put on our event, but how could we, in a way that could invite people that normally would not attend to be a part. And, and it was super unique.
And he gets the Guinness Book of World Record pillow fight, which is awesome as a company that makes pillows.
And everyone was there, was a part of that.
Right. And they all got to be a part. Everyone won. Everyone felt like they won, which I think is another big thing about partnerships is sometimes you can feel used. You can feel like, oh, they're just taking from me. Or man, all we're doing is giving to them, either direction. But sometimes it's not always bi-directional. But that one, to me, from an outsider looking at all of it, I was like, this feels like an awesome win for everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it did. It was an incredible event, and so I think that is even new for us. To think through, and I feel honestly. as incredible as, that event, we had over 9,000 responses to the gospel. Once again, it came through Echo, and all of those received follow-up and got plugged into churches. And that is just, amazing. But I think, out of everything that we're really seeing now,
right,
the depth of the ministry is the ongoing partnership that is going to continue on way past when the event is over. Those churches having, people trained, and then those people got plugged right back into those churches. That night, they're receiving an email from the church in their area,
That's so cool.
and then they're getting a phone call the next day from those partnering churches, and so and then now those people are plugged in, and now people are receiving, and so
amazing.
It's the ongoing depth of ministry that partnership can bring.
Because otherwise, you're in the city, you do the event, and then you're gone.
You're just like,
and it was like that was a great thing and fun,
Absolutely.
but I'm back to my life.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's what's worth the risk. Of how messy or how hard and difficult partnership can be, because you are able to do so much more than you can do alone. And for us, like we are an evangelistic organization, but we feel like there are these other incredible things going on. So it's just figuring out how and if can we link arms where everyone does feel like they win. But that's where the real depth of what we're seeing is happening, is in those partnerships.
That's cool. What's the lights that we're seeing?
Absolutely.
Here?
So this is Nick, and he is asking people to respond to the gospel and turn the flashlight on their phones so that it just be this visual representation of what the heavens are seeing as people are giving their lives to Jesus, and this light is coming on in their own lives. And so we do this a lot at events. It's just an incredible visual of seeing these lives go from dark to light.
What a great idea. And look at all of those people that are saying, I'm saying yes to this. That is super cool.
It was great.
And so you guys did one more event just recently in October.
It's been a busy year.
At Dallas Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
That is a huge place.
Large venue.
Yeah. How many people could fit in?
Yes, they have 180,000 seats.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a massive venue. Second largest venue in America, 8th largest venue in the world. Yeah.
And it's for those that are maybe outside of the United States. This is that are watching this. This is a NASCAR racetrack.
Yes.
Right. And so, but you guys actually had the event inside the track, essentially. Is that right?
So it's a 2-mile, mile and a half track, and then we were set up inside in the middle of the track. And so, that was October 20th and 21st. We just finished this event called Together, and for us, Together began in 2016 on the National Mall in D.C., and it was this rallying of a nation, and it's we're an evangelistic organization, but then we also felt this real call to equip, disciple, and send out a generation and resource them. And so that's what this event was. And had, close to 90,000 in attendance at that event. And it was a 2-day event, but it was really for resourcing, equipping, providing tools and resources, and sending out. But that event, we had 450 ministry partners that were part of that event that helped us to get the word out, but also, financially and through prayer. And there were over 1,300 churches that partnered with that event all across the nation. And so it was just, an incredible time. And so, it was a busy year with Winter Jam, Pulse Twin Cities into Together. But it was just, an incredible time.
So when we look at that event, what were some things that because you've learned some stuff as you've gone from each of these events. So what were some things that you felt like, man, I'm so glad that we've kind of learned some of these things that when we got to Dallas and did that event, you were like,
one of the things that we loved the most about that event is we created a experience garage. And what that was is where we took partnership to a much deeper level than we have. And so what that looked like for us was Crew, InterVarsity, YWAM, a couple other college ministries. We gave them actually one of the garages they use for the NASCARs. It's 300 feet long by 40 feet wide.
Awesome.
And they created a discipleship experience where you started on one end and worked your way through, and by the time you got to the end, you were equipped and resourced to go launch a ministry on your campus, whether it was a high school or a college, and you had contacts of the people, that could help you with that. And so, we gave them not only, to say, oh, they're partners there, but they say, hey, we want to give you a space to create something that's never been done. And this initiative was launched called Every Campus. And so these national organizations got together and determined what campuses they were on and what campuses they were not on, and then created a plan on how to get a ministry on every campus. And so for us, it's one of by far the most incredible things that could come out of an event like this, when you give partners opportunity to create in your space.
Right.
And it's things that, honestly, we didn't have much to do. Yes, we gave a space. Yes, our team was in conversations, but it's their teams working to create. And we had over 2,000 individuals that went through that and were trained and equipped and resourced. And we had a map on the floor, and so people could go put where they were going back to and everything. And so, that was incredible to see that, and to see this initiative launch where these heads of organizations got together and said, we're going to get on every campus in America. We're going to make sure there's an opportunity, if a student is there, that there is a ministry there that can encourage them and support them and disciple them.
I love it. Yeah. So it seems like you're saying more partnerships, not less, as you guys are going, right? It seems like as you continue to go, you're trying to find who are those right partners to bring to the table to help supplement and augment the core piece that you're doing, and what are those logical next steps in plugging them into ministries that are doing that. And then it seems like you're also saying over and over, listen, be adaptive, have a good plan.
Sure.
But I mean, a plan of saying you're going to change by a year when you're doing an event, that's substantial. I mean, there's a lot of contract renegotiations, and there's a lot of things with that.
There's a lot of shock,
So that's not like let's just wait another year, right? That was I'm sure a hard decision that you guys made. But be willing to be flexible even in the stuff that would seem kind of unflexible.
Sure.
Because it seems like the end result, I'm guessing, I mean, we can only guess, right? But when we look at the end result of what did happen, it seems very fruitful and positive. And it sounds like there's all this spider web of other amazing things that are happening that are kind of intangible in the sense that you don't have a report that can just show it, but all these other things are happening outside of it that maybe, like the pastor said, if you'd done it too soon, they wouldn't have had a chance to really connect and grow together.
I think, sooner would have been a good event, but there wouldn't have been the outreaches, and maybe there would have been 300 or 400 churches a part of it, you know, instead of 750, maybe, who knows what the outcome would have been. But it was just an incredible season. But I think you're right. It's just adapting and being willing to hold things maybe more open-handed. And I think that's hard for us because, especially for an organization that raises support, we don't charge for events that we do. So, when we go into an event, it's a financial loss, even though obviously it's not a loss because of the outcome that's going to come out of it. But we're not raising any money from anywhere. And so when you're operating that way and you have board of directors to report to and, and all of this, but to still hold it open-handed, I think it's a challenge, but I think that's really where God wants us to be and how, we can continue to move forward. So
if somebody's watched us somehow all the way to this point, and they're definitely interested in this, what would be some final words you would kind of give them as far as like, what would you say to them if they're thinking about, oh man, how do I know if I have the right partnership? Should I do more partnership or less? Just kind of speak to them
absolutely.
about that.
I would say always more partnership. I think if we're doing less, then I think we're where the enemy wants us to be, or he wants us to shrink back. He wants us to not dream big. He wants us to try to do things within ourselves. But I believe that God's wanting us to dream bigger, to do things that we can't do alone. And so I would say it is more partnership. And I say, pray about who those right partners are to be. Then being willing to have the conversation and put in the time, even if nothing may come out of it.
Ooh, yeah.
And so I think that's that we always want, if I'm going to give you an hour of my time, I want to know where it's going to go.
Right.
But the reality is we have spent hours upon hours. We have spent tens of thousands of dollars traveling places, visiting with people to come to the understanding that's just not going to work.
It's not the right fit.
Now, granted, there are times when we do all that and it does work, and you're like, this is incredible.
Sure.
So I think being willing to put the time in,
Yeah.
put the money for it.
Because even if you find it doesn't work, that's actually a lot of money saved, even though there was some cost there. Because nothing's worse than a partnership where it's not right. That's just terrible for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I would just say, being willing, to go that extra step to really look it out and see if it's going to make sense, and then make the hard call. Either this works or it doesn't. And when it does work, just go.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate.
Accelerate.
Just accelerate.
Yeah, I love it. Bryant, it's been awesome having you on the show. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
If you found this video helpful, share it with a friend. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that bell so you're notified for all of our future releases. Also, find and like us on Facebook. And we have a bunch of free resources for you at echoglobal.org/resources.